First contact fallout. The vastness of space stretched before Captain Elena Reyes as she stood on the bridge of the EDF Vigilant, humanity's most advanced warship. Though classified as a patrol vessel in official documentation, the Vigilant represented the pinnacle of human military engineering, a fact deliberately obscured from the galactic community. At just over a kilometer in length, its sleek obsidian hull absorbed rather than reflected light, making it appear smaller and less imposing than it truly was. Status report. Rise commanded, her voice steady despite the tension building in her chest. The Vigilant had been deployed to the edge of the Epsilon Eridani system after long-range sensors detected unknown objects decelerating from FTL speeds. Multiple contacts emerging from superluminal transit, Captain, reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Configuration unknown, not matching any recorded signatures in our database. Reyes nodded, her dark eyes narrowing. After 2 centuries of space exploration, humanity had encountered several alien civilizations, most peaceful, a few hostile. But they had learned one critical lesson: always appear less capable than you are. The United Earth Defense Force operated on the principle of strategic ambiguity. Let potential enemies underestimate you until it's too late. Bring us to combat readiness, but keep our advanced systems dormant, she ordered. Let's see what we're dealing with before we show our hand. The massive alien vessel emerging from the darkness stunned even the experienced bridge crew. It dwarfed the Vigilant by at least 6 times, a jagged behemoth bristling with what appeared to be weapon emplacements. In its wake followed smaller craft, each still twice the size of the Vigilant. They're scanning us, Captain, reported Chief Science Officer Takeda. Primitive methods, electromagnetic and gravitational. Our cloaking systems are feeding them the reduced profile. Reyes smiled thinly. Let them see what we want them to see. The communications officer raised her hand. Captain, we're receiving a transmission. They're attempting to establish contact. On screen, the holographic display flickered to life, revealing a towering reptilian figure with iridescent scales covering a muscular frame. 4 eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern, glared from a face dominated by a protruding jaw lined with serrated teeth. I am High Commander Vrax of the Dracari Imperium, the alien announced, its voice translated by the ship's AI into a deep, resonant bass. Your vessel has been detected in territory now claimed by the Imperium. Identify yourselves. Reyes stepped forward, maintaining a neutral expression. This is Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth Defense Force vessel Vigilant. You have entered sovereign human space. We were unaware of any territorial claims by the Dracari Imperium in this system. The alien commander's upper eyes narrowed. The strong claim what they will, Captain. The Dracari Imperium has expanded to 57 star systems through right of conquest. Your species is unknown to us, but your technology appears primitive. For the safety of your people, you will power down your vessel and prepare to be boarded. Your civilization will benefit from Dracari protection. Protection, the eternal euphemism for subjugation. Reyes had studied enough history to recognize an imperial power when she saw one. I request time to consult with my crew and Earth Command, she replied evenly. The Dracari commander made a sound that might have been laughter. You have 10 minutes of your time measurement. Then we will commence boarding procedures. When the transmission ended, the bridge exploded into controlled activity. Battle stations, Reyes ordered immediately. Activate quantum defense grid, but keep it dormant until my command. Begin passive target acquisition on all Dracari vessels. Captain, Jackson interjected. The scan data indicates their weapon systems are primarily plasma-based, with some form of gravitational manipulation technology. Their hull composition suggests vulnerability to our phase-shifted kinetics. Reyes nodded. The Vigilant had been designed with one purpose: to serve as humanity's ultimate insurance policy against threats exactly like this one. Begin transmitting combat telemetry back to Earth through the quantum entanglement array, she ordered. If this goes sideways, I want Earth Command to know exactly what they're dealing with. As the minutes ticked down, Rice studied the tactical display. The Drakari formation was arrogant. They had positioned their vessels in a standard encirclement pattern, but with obvious gaps. They clearly didn't consider the single human ship a threat. Their mistake. When the communication channel reopened, High Commander Vrax appeared more impatient. Your time has expired, Captain. What is your decision? We respectfully decline your offer of protection, Commander, Rice replied calmly. This system has been human territory for over a century. We request that you withdraw your forces. The alien's 4 eyes blinked in different patterns, its jaw dropping slightly in what might have been astonishment. You decline. Perhaps your translation systems are faulty. I command a conquest fleet that has subjugated dozens of species more advanced than yours. Your single vessel cannot hope to resist. Reyes allowed herself a small smile. Perhaps you should scan us again, Commander, more thoroughly this time. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across the alien's features. He barked an order in his native language, and the bridge crew of the Vigilant could sense the more intensive scans washing over their hull. Now, Rice commanded. In an instant, the Vigilant transformed. The dormant systems that had been masked from the alien scans activated simultaneously. The quantum defense grid came online, surrounding the ship in a barely visible prismatic field. Weapon ports that had been disguised as sensor arrays opened along the hull, revealing advanced armaments that human diplomatic records insisted didn't exist. On the communication screen, the Drakari commander's expression shifted from confusion to alarm. Impossible, he hissed. Your vessel. The readings have changed. The Vigilant is a stealth battlecruiser, Commander, Rice explained, her voice hardening. What you detected earlier was a projected sensor profile designed to mask our true capabilities. This is your final warning to withdraw from human space. Instead of responding, the alien cut the transmission. Seconds later, the forward Drakari vessels opened fire, unleashing streams of superheated plasma toward the Vigilant. Defensive countermeasures, Rice ordered calmly. The quantum defense grid pulsed, creating a phase-shifted barrier that caused the incoming plasma to simply pass through the Vigilant, as if it occupied a different dimension. Which, in a sense, it temporarily did. Target their propulsion systems and weapons arrays, Rice commanded. Disable, don't destroy. The Vigilant's primary weapon system, a series of gravitationally accelerated projectile launchers, fired in perfect synchronization. Unlike conventional kinetic weapons, these projectiles were phase-shifted to bypass enemy shields, then rephased at the moment of impact. The effect was devastating. 6 Drakari vessels suddenly found themselves immobilized, their propulsion systems punctured with surgical precision. The flagship attempted to coordinate a more concentrated attack, but the Vigilant's quantum defense grid continued to neutralize their plasma weapons. They're launching fighter craft, Jackson reported. Over 200 small vessels deploying from the carrier ships. Reyes nodded. Deploy countermeasures. Activate the Aegis system. From concealed bays along the Vigilant's hull, thousands of small autonomous drones emerged, each no larger than a human fist. They formed a swarm that intercepted the incoming fighters, employing a mix of electronic warfare and precisely targeted energy pulses to disable rather than destroy the alien craft. The bridge crew watched in professional silence as the supposedly overwhelming Drakari force found itself increasingly immobilized, unable to inflict any damage on the human vessel while their own capabilities were systematically neutralized. When the communications channel reopened, High Commander Vrax's expression had changed entirely. Gone was the arrogant conqueror, replaced by a creature reassessing a gravely underestimated opponent. What manner of technology is this? He demanded, his translated voice tinged with both rage and fascination. The kind developed by a species that has fought both alongside and against forces you couldn't imagine, Rice replied. Humanity has faced extinction multiple times, Commander. Each time, we adapted. Each time, we survived. Each time, we emerged stronger. She leaned forward, her gaze unflinching. Now we can continue this demonstration until your entire fleet is disabled, or you can withdraw and reconsider your approach to first contact with our species. For several long moments, the alien commander was silent, his four eyes blinking in complex patterns as he presumably communicated with his subordinates. "This is not over," he finally stated. "The Drakari Imperium does not retreat. We will return with a proper battle fleet." "You misunderstand, Commander," Reyes replied. "This wasn't a battle. If it had been, your ships would be debris. This was a warning. The next time the Drakari enter human space without permission, we won't be so restrained." As the damaged Drakari vessels began to withdraw, leaving behind their disabled fighters and support craft, Lieutenant Commander Jackson approached Reyes. "They'll be back," he said quietly, "and in greater numbers." "I'm counting on it," Reyes replied, watching the retreating alien flagship. "Contact Earth Command. They need to prepare the Thermopylae Protocol." As the Vigilant maintained its position at the edge of the Epsilon Eridani system, the crew knew they had just fought the opening skirmish in what might become humanity's greatest challenge. But they had sent a clear message to the galaxy: underestimate humans at your peril. The Drakari would return, and when they did, humanity would be ready to reveal just how deadly they could be when provoked. The Reckoning. 17 days after the initial confrontation, the Vigilant remained on station at the edge of the Epsilon Eridani system. Captain Reyes had rotated the crew through combat readiness drills hourly, knowing the Drakari would not accept their humiliation lightly. Earth Command had responded to their transmission by deploying additional forces to nearby systems, but the Vigilant would stand alone for the coming battle, exactly as planned. "Contact." Lieutenant Commander Jackson's voice cut through the quiet hum of the bridge. Multiple superluminal signatures detected, much larger than before. Reyes straightened in her command chair. "Numbers. 27 capital ships, Captain. And something else." Jackson's voice faltered. "One massive signature, at least 20 kilometers in length." A murmur ran through the bridge crew. No ship that size had ever been encountered in human space. "Show me," Reyes ordered. The tactical display shifted to show the emerging Drakari fleet. At its center was a vessel that defied conventional description, less a ship than a mobile battle station, bristling with weapon emplacements and surrounded by a phalanx of warships. "They brought their dreadnought," Chief Science Officer Takeda observed quietly. "The energy readings are off the charts." "As expected," Reyes replied, her face betraying no concern. "Initiate the Thermopylae Protocol. Full-spectrum defensive posture." Throughout the ship, previously dormant systems awakened. The Vigilant had been designed with modular architecture that allowed it to reconfigure its internal structure in response to different threats. Walls shifted, corridors realigned, and new systems emerged from hidden compartments. "We're being hailed," reported Communications Officer Chen. The main display activated to reveal not High Commander Vrax, but an even larger Drakari, its scales darker and adorned with elaborate metallic implants. 8 eyes instead of 4 stared out from the screen, arranged in a complex pattern that suggested significant genetic modification. "I am Grand Admiral Zorax of the Drakari Imperium," the creature announced. "The human vessel has been declared an enemy of the Imperium. Surrender now, and your crew will be spared for scientific study. Resist, and you will be obliterated." Reyes stood, squaring her shoulders. "This is Captain Alina Reyes of the Earth Defense Force vessel Vigilant. Your fleet has once again violated sovereign human space. We will not surrender." "Your defiance is noted, but futile," Zorax replied. "Our intelligence division has analyzed your previous combat performance. Your technological advantages have been accounted for. The World Breaker has never failed to conquer." The transmission ended abruptly, and moments later, the Drakari fleet began to advance in a new formation, clearly designed to counter the tactics the Vigilant had employed in their previous encounter. "They've adapted," Jackson observed. "Their weapons signatures show modifications to counter our phase-shifting defenses." Reyes smiled slightly. "Good. That means they're fighting the last battle, not this one." Deploy the Chimera array. From concealed ports along the Vigilant's hull, hundreds of small satellites emerge, rapidly forming a three-dimensional grid around the human vessel. Each satellite began pulsing with energy, creating an interconnected web of quantum entanglement. The Drakari opened fire first, not with plasma weapons as before, but with a barrage of exotic particle beams designed to disrupt the phase-shifting capabilities the Vigilant had previously demonstrated. "They'd done their homework," Takeda noted as the sensors registered the incoming attack. "Chimera array. Active defense," Reyes commanded. The satellite grid surrounding the Vigilant pulsed with blinding intensity. The incoming Drakari weaponry didn't impact a shield or pass through a phase-shifted barrier. Instead, the beams simply ceased to exist halfway to their target, as if they'd crossed some invisible boundary and vanished. On the tactical display, confusion spread through the Drakari fleet as their primary attack proved completely ineffective. "Chimera array functioning at 94% efficiency," Jackson reported. "Their weapons are being redirected into subspace." Reyes nodded. "Now we show them what humanity can really do." Activate the Promethean cascade. Deep within the Vigilant, the ship's true heart began to beat faster. Unlike conventional warships powered by fusion or antimatter, the Vigilant harnessed energy from the quantum foam itself, the fabric of reality where virtual particles constantly popped in and out of existence. The Promethean cascade focused this energy into coherent beams that didn't so much damage their targets as temporarily rewrite the laws of physics around them. "Target the outer escort vessels first," Reyes ordered. "Precision strikes only." The Vigilant fired. There was no visible beam, no explosive projectile, just a ripple in space-time that connected the human ship to 5 Drakari cruisers simultaneously. Where this ripple touched the alien vessels, matter simply rearranged itself. Weapon systems fused into inoperable masses. Propulsion crystals realigned their atomic structure, becoming inert. 5 Drakari warships suddenly found themselves adrift, their primary systems transformed at the quantum level into useless configurations of the same materials. The Drakari fleet responded with overwhelming force. The World Breaker Dreadnought opened fire with weapons that distorted gravity itself, creating localized singularities that would crush any conventional vessel. "Gravitational attack incoming," warned Takeda. "Multiple artificial singularities detected." "Chimera array, reconfiguration delta," Reyes commanded calmly. The satellite grid surrounding the Vigilant shifted, forming new patterns. As the gravitational singularities approached, the array created precisely calibrated counter-gravitational fields. Rather than resisting the immense forces, the Vigilant's defenses redirected them, causing the singularities to orbit the human vessel in an elaborate dance before being flung back toward the Drakari fleet. 3 enemy destroyers were caught in their own weapons effect, crushed into unrecognizable masses of compressed matter. On the Vigilant's bridge, a warning alarm sounded. "Chimera array at 73% and falling," Jackson reported. "They're throwing everything at us, Captain. The system can't sustain this level of redirection indefinitely." Rey studied the tactical display. The Drakari were adapting again, coordinating their attacks to overwhelm the Vigilant's defensive systems through sheer volume of fire. "Time to change the game," she decided. "Activate the Lazarus Protocol." Throughout the Vigilant, the ship's architecture began to shift again. Sections that had been configured for defense reconfigured for an entirely different purpose. "Lazarus Protocol active," confirmed the ship's eye. Dimensional tethering in progress. Around the Vigilant, space itself seemed to ripple and tear. Small fissures appeared in reality, each stabilized by the energy flowing from the human vessel. From these fissures emerged ships, human ships. But they weren't physical vessels. They were quantum shadows, Duplicates of the Vigilant pulled from parallel dimensions where slightly different versions of the same ship existed. 5, then 10, then 20 Vigilants appeared, arranged in a perfect formation around the original. On the Drakari flagship, Grand Admiral Zorak stared in disbelief at the sensor readings. Where there had been a single human vessel, there were now 21 identical ships, each reading as solid and real as the original. "Impossible," he hissed. "No species has mastered interdimensional technology to this degree." The communication channel reopened, showing Captain Rice standing calmly on her bridge. "As I mentioned before, Admiral, humanity has faced extinction multiple times," she explained. "One of those events involved beings from outside our dimension. We learned adaptations." The 20 Shadow Vigilants moved in perfect synchronization, each targeting a different Drakari vessel with their own Promethean cascades. The effect was devastating. Within moments, half the alien fleet had been neutralized, their systems transformed into useless configurations at the quantum level. "This ends now," Rice declared. "Withdraw your forces immediately, or we will be forced to demonstrate our final defensive capability." The World Breaker responded by focusing all its remaining weapons on the original Vigilant. The barrage was unlike anything seen before, combining gravitational distortion, exotic particles, and what appeared to be weaponized dark energy. Camera array failing, Jackson reported as sections of the defensive grid began to collapse. "Direct impact imminent. Activate the Ouroboros engine," Rice commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. Deep within the Vigilant's core, the ship's final and most classified system awakened. The Ouroboros engine didn't manipulate energy or matter. It manipulated time itself. As the devastating Drakari barrage approached, time around the Vigilant slowed, then stopped, then reversed. The energy weapons fired by the World Breaker retracted back into their emitters. The gravitational distortions collapsed. From the perspective of the Drakari, it appeared as if their attack had been absorbed completely. "What is happening?" demanded Grand Admiral Zorax, his multiple eyes blinking rapidly in confusion. "Localized temporal manipulation," Rice explained. "Your attacks never reached us because they never happened in our frame of reference." She stepped closer to the communication display. "This is your final warning, Admiral. The Vigilant was designed as a defensive platform capable of neutralizing any known form of attack. You cannot win this engagement." The Drakari Admiral's expression shifted through confusion, rage, and finally, a reluctant acknowledgement of reality. "The Imperium has never encountered technology like this," he admitted. "How has a species we had never heard of achieved such capabilities?" "Necessity," Rice replied simply. "Humanity spent most of its history fighting itself. When we finally reached the stars, we discovered threats that made our internal conflicts seem trivial. We adapted. We survived. We prepared for the next threat, and the next." She gestured to the disabled Drakari vessels surrounding them. "Your Imperium can be that next threat, or it can be something else entirely. The choice is yours." For several long moments, the massive alien was silent, communicating internally through neural implants with what remained of his command staff. "The Drakari Imperium recognizes the sovereignty of human space," he finally declared. "We will withdraw our forces and propose formal diplomatic relations." Reyes nodded. "A wise decision, Admiral. We will transmit coordinates for a neutral meeting ground where representatives from Earth can meet with your diplomats." As the remaining Drakari vessels collected their disabled comrades and began to withdraw, Lieutenant Commander Jackson approached Reyes. "You knew they'd come back stronger," he observed. "You wanted them to see what we're truly capable of." "The Vigilant was never designed to fight battles, Commander," Reyes replied, watching the retreating alien fleet. "It was designed to prevent wars. The Drakari needed to understand that humanity isn't worth conquering, not because we're weak, but because the cost would be too high. And if they had continued fighting." Reyes turned away from the tactical display. Then we would have demonstrated why every species that has attempted to subjugate humanity has eventually regretted it. As the Vigilant disengaged its advanced systems and resumed its patrol stance, a message arrived from Earth Command. Thermopylae protocol successful. Diplomatic channels opening with the Dracari Imperium. The Vigilant is ordered to maintain position as first contact vanguard. Captain Alina Reyes smiled. Today, humanity had gained not just security, but potentially new allies who now understood a fundamental truth about her species. Humans weren't dangerous because they sought conflict. They were dangerous because they had mastered it. The stars had just become a little safer for humanity, and a little more cautious for those who might threaten it.